Next item here is probes on port 1153 TCP. This is registered. Excuse me, thank you. 1158. I'm so used to saying 53. So it's 1158 TCP. That's DB Control OMS. OMS standing for Oracle Management Service. We're showing actually 180 days of activity here. I don't think we've reported on this before. When I did a quick search,
I don't recall it either.
I hadn't seen it, but it's not as if this is actually new activity. So kind of wish we had reported on it before. In any case, there are basically two sources from China that are scanning on this port. They are working basically on independent intervals. But it's interesting to note that most of the probes come from one address, and they appear to be very random. And then maybe about 1/10 as many of the probes come from, and I'm roughly estimating here, come from another address. And those are very frequently successful connections. That is, there are at least other flag activities as opposed to just sort of a send packet sent. And so it appears as if they may be actually working together. That is, one to identify where connections are accepted or some kind of response is received, and then the second one to go through and do a further investigation and perhaps profile, or maybe even to do, again, I haven't seen specific evidence, but perhaps to do password guessing or something, or vulnerability checks, that kind of thing. It turns out that at least one of those addresses, I did a quick check, it was the one that was doing the frequent probing and scanning activities, also scanning on other ports that some of which are really very closely related. 1433, which is Microsoft SQL database, this being the 1158 being associated with Oracle database. 1521, that's that's actually another Oracle.
That's another Oracle, yeah.
Another Oracle port as well. 1723, a little bit of anomaly there. That's a H3.
Is it? I'm not sure if it is or not.
Oh, shame on me. I should have checked.
Yeah.
I thought I knew and then I forgot.
I feel like that might be another Oracle TLS listener port or something, but I could be wrong.
And Matt's going to look it up while we talk a little bit more here. Port 3306 is MySQL database, which happens to be owned by Oracle as well. And then 3389, it's a remote desktop protocol, which is basically, obviously remote desktop protocol. We see that frequently.
That's a good thing.
1723 is point-to-point protocol, actually.
P2P, okay.
So. PPTP.
Oh, PPTP, yeah, so it's that PPTP tunneling protocol. Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, perhaps a remote access path or something to be vulnerable. So in any case, keep an eye out for those types of activities, because there certainly are actors that are trying to get into your database or your enterprise. By the way, I think in many cases that, we've probably said this before, but I think many cases these database penetrations aren't necessarily going after the database itself. I think they're looking for an avenue into the enterprise. That is, if you're operating a database server, invariably you're going to have some path to get data in there or manage the data, other transactions that are taking place, and so it's an opportunity to perhaps use features of the database that are often overlooked to be able to get administrative access to the machine, and then perhaps move laterally. So exposure of a database is oftentimes sort of from an attacker's point of view, a potential gateway.
I am thinking about it, though. For some attackers, the whole point is simply gaining access to the database and dumping the contents to pastebin.
Maybe.
To say, hey, we're Lead Hacker Crew 27, we got into somebody's database. We had no idea we were trying to get into the database, but when we found it, here it is.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. That's absolutely true. But in this particular case, I'm speculating based on the remote desktop protocol, the PPTP, those types of things that kind of suggest it's really kind of just trying to get access.